Hi everyone, Mature Simmer here. Just trying to get going this morning. Cannot get in to get that PTO connected. There we go. So we've got our wheat ready to go. So head on down to the south end of the field. And we've got our straw swath on. That's obviously key because it's one of the main things we want out of this. So I'm going to go ahead and start collecting all that. And we'll go ahead here and turn on or set my line as much as I can, hopefully. Guess I'll be careful there. And I'm going to run across the bottom per normal. So it'll be a little bit of a pain to pick that up the way that dropped. So yeah, visually, I don't know that you can honestly tell much. But as I said, I think the best I had was about 27,000, maybe even 40,000 left. So, but once I filled the barn. So we'll see how all of that moves along. But the nice thing is, we'll get this done. And then I think I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to list this field because there's not really a reason to be holding on to it because I don't have any grand plans about doing anything that's going to suddenly require 2 crops at a time or whatever it is, and the other field should be more than adequate because it isn't, once again, as if there's some set goals that I'm targeting that require something to happen. Come on. I think I'm going to end up in a... got close. Because I was going to say, I know I need to turn here. Okay, now it just won't stay straight at any point, which is not fun. Alright, I think I'm good there. So, 31% of wheat. Again, I have beware of straw. I keep forgetting that. I need to pick up the header when I'm potentially running into things. So that should give me a clean spot there. And then I can go ahead here, get this edge done because it's obviously a bit more of a challenge. Let's make sure, okay, the line looks straight, so it's not hidden away, so or angled in any way, because I think I was slightly off, but I think if you're within a certain level of tolerance when you set your GPS, it's going to snap to the 90-degree angles. You know, if I'm at 10 degrees off or something, I know I've certainly been able to get the line to connect off of 90, 180, 270 and 0, but usually I think if you're close it does a good job. So you know what I think I'm gonna do, because I kind of used to go around the turn here, and it's the last time I'm running the field, but that's okay. But that was then when I ran into the problem of, well, I'll go pick up the straw because otherwise I'm trying to avoid it with my header. This will avoid that because now I'll be able to... Oops, I don't need to lock onto a line there yet. I want to go over here. I could get rid of this. That would certainly help. Alright. And of course, I'm almost always, no matter what I do, I just seem to be off this tiny bit. I'm like close, but not there. So let's back up. And then at this point, we'll drop down and we'll run this. So we'll see if I'll be able to get down here, because that was the other thing. Like, I never had 2 harvesters full of crop either, I don't think. Now I can't remember. I guess I need to just stop speculating. I would like to say this is like a really wide swath of straw here, where I'm almost feeling when I look at that, because I am zoomed out as far as possible, so my perspective that I normally see this is accurate, but I'm almost feeling like I'd have a hard time making sure I pick that all up with the forage wagon. So that does kind of bode well. I mean, I don't know that it was that wide there, but this is really the first time I'm running a full header's width. Well, we'll do that. That's fine. Could have slowed down, but it ultimately doesn't really matter with the forage wagons. So we'll get clear of the straw. Now we'll put the header down. And there we go. Definitely in this row, we're going to get full. So I'll get my pipe out so that I can go ahead and collect this wheat up and go ahead and get it somewhere. So that's, again, the determination, the process I always have is, am I going to sell on the server, or am I going to sell through customs? As long as I hit 25,000 liters, which I should be able to do, then selling at customs is possible. I'm not sure. I did a little damage, so I lost a little bit. Alright, as I get my truck here, so one of the other things I did off camera when I was working, I went ahead and put in a repair trigger there, because it's a nice flat spot. I don't know when I'm going to own anything else, but one of the tractors had gotten in really bad shape, so I'd also moved everything from the dairy. I had taken the cheese and moved it. So that's the activity that happened after I finished liming the field. So I came in yesterday, and I finished liming the field, and then I had plowed 8. So when I did the mayor duties a little bit later, I decided to do that. And there's always that thing of, well, do I either try to splice together something and add it to the episode, or can I just tell you about it? And at this point, it was simple enough that I'm like, they're 2 little things. Unless I just chat a lot, it's not going to take that long, and so I'll just go ahead and let you know that I put in a workshop trigger and sold the cheese. Alright. So once again, it should just be the first hopper for sure. We're not going to exceed 40,000 liters. We know that with veritable certainty. So I think I mentioned I was paid through summer, so I'm kind of where I should be. After next month, I need to do the fall payment for silage. So I do have that coming up, but everything is set. I probably can run some slurry over as well, because I think I was at 29,000 on the BGA. Oh, the other thing related to that, I guess FSN decided they got rid of the BGA that was FSN owned that I dropped off at, and I didn't realize that I never get paid for that. So they did credit me the, whatever it was, $2,400 or something for the silage that I dropped, or the slurry that I dropped off there. And then you can also rename points, so you can see it's Misty Hills Dairy and Misty Hills Biogas. Well, and I guess Misty Hill's steel silos, so I suppose when you stand nearby, you're able to rename those things, and that way people don't mistakenly deliver to them thinking they're going to get paid for something like silage, let's say, and then they're not getting paid, which would not be good. So that's one of the benefits, is we've got one of the individuals on our server here is part of the operations team, or at least staff, and so they kind of know some of those things, and I'm assuming they, made some comments to those folks, had a conversation of what was going on, and were given the go-ahead to do whatever they needed to do there. So as you can see, I guess, yeah, there's this highway producers now, which was probably there, but the biogas plant that was present over in that area is no more. Because basically my understanding is, since the FSN farm is another farm on the server, it would function the same way as if someone dropped material off at my biogas plant. Basically FSN made money off of it, which I'm sure is then how they could tell what to credit me back, because they probably saw that one day and the whatever it was, the 24.49 got dropped in there. So certainly I know wheat does yield more than oats does, so I would expect to get more yield off of the field for that. So I suppose if I get this second harvester, which honestly, at the way this is going, I mean, I've basically, one row is at almost 28% or so. It's certainly feasible that I'm going to get another 18,000 here. Because, yeah, I want to say I was just barely over 25, because I think I remember when I dropped the oats contract, I was like, wow, I barely made the minimum. But yes, we're at 18,000 slurry left. It holds about the 79,000, so I can run a 50,000 liter tanker over now in its entirety. So I will certainly do that as well, because obviously we're going to get the cows producing again, and then that means they are going to start producing more slurry and fill up eventually. Now there still is no other slurry sell point, so that was part of the discussion when we were made aware of what happened with the BGA and so forth, and kind of everyone was told this is how you can rename stuff. But that there was no additional slurry sell point, and so at this point, with the biogas plant gone, like, only my biogas plant shows up in slurry, and so that's why they showed us, or explained you could rename it. So you can see here, the only one buying is me, but it's, Misty Hills there. And so I assume the 400,000 is what we have, because I think we moved that last load when the barn was already not producing. So yeah, all told, what may be happening is I just may get more straw off of this field, because it's a higher yielding crop as well. So what I don't have the data for, and I don't know that it's that important, because in the end it's just per acre am I getting more straw, which is really what I'll be looking for, is per 1,000 liters of crop do I get more straw. I don't have the data to figure that out. Alright, let me back up, because this won't, it'll turn, but I'll probably miss a little bit. I always kind of run into problems with that, where I try to do that, and then it just doesn't behave quite the way I'd like. Oh, so close, so close. So I'm actually going to have to run up again, but at this point, with what I'm seeing, we will fill the harvester again, and we might run the risk of having more than one hopper car full on that trailer, which would be nice. It would certainly be the first crop I've had here on Hobo's Hollow that required more than 40,000 liters to to get off the field. So I know with certainty we're less than that, because I never had to unload both hoppers at customs, and I think I've sold oats through customs both times. So to try to avoid hitting the wheat again, 18,000 is my harvester limit here with this class. So we'll see if we can get to the end of the row. It's, as always, going to be really, really close. And it's probably not going to happen, so we'll back ourselves out if we need to. I mean, unlike a potato harvester, but yeah, I have more than 100 liters there, so we'll pick this up so that, again, we don't have any difficulty, and I'll get my pipe out, and then we'll come empty this, and then we'll collect up what's left. So it's really going to be determined of, do I have more than 4,000 liters on the field yet? And I might, so I don't know, we'll see, because obviously that one line is pretty thin. Now I do run a challenge though, because I think I'm going to want to grab the straw, so I think I'm going to divert right now. So once this fills up, we'll go turn the harvester off. Because when I go up, what I'm thinking, that line that comes in, then I'm going to have the beware of straw problem, where my header's going to be definitely over, and I could go and like cut sideways, but that's just challenging. So I'm going to at least get the straw up around the edge there. We'll do that. So we'll turn that off. And I'm going to go ahead and grab this one this time, because it's just got a little more giddy up and go. I think I've got the wagon over there, do I? Where is it? I'm not seeing it. Oh, is it behind? You know what, I think it's behind. No. I don't know what I left where. I'm just not seeing. Oh no, it is up there. It's just so dark still that it's hard to make things out when it's a little far away, but it is up here. I think it's facing. No, I guess I didn't turn around. Or did I? No, I didn't. So I was going to say it's facing the hayloft, but it is not. But this has a little more horsepower, so it'll just move things along a little bit quicker. And I haven't used this for a while, so I've been using the other tractor for quite a bit for almost everything I've been doing. Obviously, I'll be using this one again in a year and a half or so when it's time to plant 24. But for now, I can use it now as well to get the straw over, or at least picked up. So I probably won't fill it up, because part of what I want to figure out is I want to fill the barn, which is going to take, I mean, the barn will start producing a bit before I get everything picked up, because there's just some time it takes. Although I think if I do it within the hour, which I should, I mean, this whole thing shouldn't take me another 54 minutes. But now that we flipped over past 4 a.m., I'll probably be okay there. But anyway, I'll just stick to what I was thinking of doing. So what I was just debating a bit is, do I, pick up a whole thing of straw and run it over there? But I don't necessarily need to be doing that, so I also don't need to be exactly doing what I'm doing, but I'm here now, so I will do it. So we'll pick this up. I'm going to have to back up to get the piece that I can't get. And I should be able to kind of turn back in there. Hopefully get this without too much mess. Because obviously I'd like to not have to keep going back and forth. And I'm not even going to start to speculate. My head's already going that way, like, wow, I got 1,500 liters off just that. But the results will speak for themselves, because I think what will happen is if we don't hit the hour, it's not as if the barn consumes things as it goes, because the robot basically has to move things over from the piles, and it does that at the top of the hour. So kind of when the feeding robot would run out to the barn to feed them, where right now it can't because it's distributed all the food that it has produced, then the next step is it goes up and, whoops, I think I just missed some. Maybe I didn't, but I got close. And now as I'm thinking of it, I need to pick up the row on the other side too, because obviously the header's also going to have that problem. I mean, it's possible I would have just fit in between, but I don't think so. So I may fill up before I get to the end. I don't think so as well. But I do have to also be careful that I don't run into the crop, and if I run the risk of that, I'll just obviously have to grab the harvester and cut the rest of this row, or harvest the rest of this row. Cuts in my head because I do so much grass. Oh my goodness. I don't want to leave that, because I'll just be having to maneuver around that. So we'll go back here and we'll collect this up. But as I said, I knew I'd be close in being able to get this done. So let me set the line here, because that will also help. Because then I can just line things up on my straw swath in the future. But yeah, we won't be full. But what I don't know is, do I have enough room? And my guess is I don't, because there is no point in running the risk of running into crop. It's going to be really close. Alright, well, I guess I do. Just, obviously it's going to take a bit more time than it normally would to do this, because I have to be really, really careful, because I don't have a whole lot of forgiveness. So that's it. Like, I got to get that close to get it all. So one more. I could probably ignore this one, but and as I think on it, maybe I didn't need to, because I wasn't going to go down the center. So I probably didn't need to pick this up, but I've done it now. So, alright, so 38,000 from that. I'm going to go out this way. I'm just trying to avoid any crop damage or anything like that. And it's okay if it picks up a little bit more. Alright, so that's good there. Alright, so now we're going to finish up harvesting the wheat. So get our header down, and we'll see again if we get more than 94. I'd be super surprised if we don't. Yep, way more. 250-ish, so if I keep track of that, so I have like 238 liters, and we'll see how much straw we get off there, because I just now have that little bit, so I can just kind of pull through there, and we should be able to tell how much straw I get off of that, and then it'll give us a little bit of, for 238 liters of wheat, we get X amount of straw. So we can kind of back into a number. But once we get past the full header here, obviously the straw is going to get more and more sparse, and when we're down to just that little thin line up there, it's just probably going to spit out little bits at a time. It won't even be a line anymore. But we've got to go up there a ways. But we're only at 2,000, so we'll see. Obviously it's going to shrink down here substantially, even from where I'm at, where we're going to just start getting a liter or two at a time. Like, we can literally watch it go up a liter at a time instead of much more robust pieces. So yeah, so what I was saying, if I locked on like this, that line I just picked up, obviously I'm in no danger. I was thinking I was manually driving it and kind of headed down the center, and that would be a problem. So I really just needed to pick up the line at the point where I picked it up along the curve, but it doesn't hurt. It's just further ahead in the collection process. All right. I don't think we're going to get 4,000, which is good in a way, because we wouldn't get a lot over 4,000, and then, you know, we're dealing with the second hopper and the unloading of it and all that just to move 50 liters or something, but it looks like we'll be over 3. But yes, we're not going to get 800 and something off of, you know, 846, I think, off of the other side. I mean, we do have a full swath for a second, for like 4 or 5 sheaths worth. I think it's a wheat sheaf. S-H-E-A-F? I don't know. I don't know, I'm making words up or spelling them wrong or something. But I think it's a sheaf of wheat. Alright, so we've got that, and obviously this is not going to be 500 liters of wheat here. Might be 5, and it might not even be that much. Nope, it was 4, I think, if I saw it right. Am I going to get any straw out of it? Doesn't look like it. Alright, so we'll drive over to the truck. And then I will take this harvester over to the other side, because now I don't need to leave it over here, because I'm done with this field in my Hobo's Hollow career. So there we go. And so yeah, what ends up happening is we basically sell it back to the NPC, the non-player character, and then we obviously get our money back for the field, but we don't sell in-game like you would if you were on single player. So there's a point on the website which I'll show how that works. For those who aren't familiar with FSN, it'll give you a little bit of a view of things, which is probably the best way to understand how we do things. It obviously makes it hard for people to find specific items if they're just buried in videos. I get that, but selling something here is also not something you do that frequently, and obviously people can kind of figure it out pretty easily. Alright, so we're all set there. So then, just to be done, let me figure out what I'm doing with my oats, or my wheat. So I've got basically 340 to 350. So once again, I'll just, if I do this, I'll pick the closest, and that's probably going to be Highway Producers, which is also the best, but my guess is usually we're significantly better to take it to Customs. Alright, figured while I'm in here, I'll check if there's any new auctions. There aren't. Field 39 that I mentioned last time when I went to then plow Field 8, Looks like we've got an FM that's bidding on that, so they're going to own that field, and that will be done early tomorrow morning. So unless there suddenly becomes a bidding war, that'll be that situation. So then I go over here to crop sales, and more than likely I'll go ahead, so I'm just going to jump into the game. 39,325. So we pick wheat, 39,325, and then we go to the confirmation page, and yeah, instead of 340 to 350, it's 605, 600, it's 606. So this is a no-brainer. So we're going to go ahead and issue that. And once again, I'm straddling the line a little bit in that hard and fast for the rule, we're supposed to have the crop at customs prior to issuing the contract. But that's kind of to guarantee that when someone comes in, they're not waiting for us to finish transporting it over there, because it's unfair to a contractor if that's the case. But this, I'm doing it immediately. I'm running it right over. It's one trip, so there's really no danger, or no significant danger, if someone suddenly immediately grabs it, because what ends up happening now on the website is that contract is posted instantly when I finalize and sell. And so it's out there right now. Someone could go in, but when they go in, like, they still have to get to our server. They have to accept it. They have to get to our server. They have to log in. Obviously, the login process, once it gets to the point where they're ready to get in the last 5% of the load, it does then synchronize here, and so at that point they'd be on, and I would stop for the moment. But like right now, even if they're in the process of logging in, like, I'm getting closer to customs by the second as I go along here. And so we did, have that problem that one time. Again, we did it in plenty of time. Like, I had already delivered and it had just gotten back to my farm, and we had someone sign in. But that's the first and only time I've ever seen anything happen that fast. Many times you could be waiting a few days until the contract is picked up by someone. So, and it's not as if I really need this. Now, when I'm in the normal production where I'm running the entire field, I certainly will move all the crop over, because more than likely I'll also be storing it in the silo. But if I sell at customs, in a lot of cases I don't, because kind of seeing what the price is going to be there is harder to do. But here we go. Like, if someone were to show up now, they can't get on here until I'm done, so they'd have to jump in, they'd have to connect the truck. Like, in this time, obviously my hopper will be empty and they'll be ready to go. So, but you kind of saw, we're getting whatever it was, 23,000 or something for this crop at the amount we're at. So, and that will show up on the website, and then I have to transfer it in. So when I move the 170,000 before, so this just kind of lets you check. I assume there's nothing else, because I don't know that folks are running a lot, and if they are, I'm on pretty early today. Obviously, harvest for some crops may have started yesterday. Not sure. Alright, so kind of 2 out of the 3 portions of the job are done. The main portion, however, for my farm, because of being the dairy operation that I have become, and really started out here on Hobo's Hollow as a dairy operation, that was always in the cards. It was just one of those things that I hadn't done on Shellbrook, because by the time I kind of made that decision to pivot and try to go that route, we knew we were moving, so I didn't make the investment in buying a dairy or buying a BGA out there. We were just kind of dealing with milk, but we still had the same issue where I had to have straw. It's just I had working fields at that point. But really what I wanted when I started the work today was what I'll be doing next, which is getting the straw over to the barn and going from there. So as we talked about, we're at 4:24. So now I have half an hour kind of to safely collect all the straw and get it to the barn. And if I can fill the barn, which will be 3 trips, if I can fill the barn before that, then I'll be in good shape. Alright, disconnect this, do that, and then we'll turn this off because we're done with the truck for today. And now we're back here, and this is obviously still operating and connecting. We never turned it off, never picked up the pickup head or anything, but I'm going to go down here and maybe I'll just grab this first row because I'm not going to get all the way across before I am full. I was going to go down to the bottom, but this works just fine too. And then when I come back, you know, maybe I'll pick these up, and then at that point I'm just doing vertical rows and picking things up a little more cleanly, trying to drive around in a way that I'm getting everything. I'm somehow magically doing that. I don't know if you paid me if I could do it again, but so we got nearly all the way across there. So our capacity for the barn, 147,000 in case you've forgotten, for straw, for basically everything other than silage. And so that's how we arrive at, I need 3. I'll probably go ahead and come in from this side and then turn and then head out, because otherwise I'm just coming out this way. I mean, in a way it's 6 1/2 dozen of the other, but this allows a decision to be made. How about that? I don't know how else to explain it, but so, but I think, yeah, so kind of on this side of the tree, and then we've got a clear path that way, and then I just need to make sure I swing out enough here, but yet can get close enough where I can dump, but hay's kind of toward the other end, so that's why I figured I'd be able to maneuver just fine here. There we go. And if I was dumping hay, I guess that would be important, but I'm dumping straw, so I knew kind of what I meant, but I was absolutely thinking hay in my head, so I'm not gonna lie. It wasn't that I misspoke, I was just confused. Alright, so we have that. Alright, so the crampy is behind the barn, so I was like, I know I've got a trailer sitting at the top end of the pasture there, and that's why I was getting confused and thinking it was this, but it's the crampy, which is what I move all the items from the hay loft and everything over with. So that's normally how I'll fill the barn. And once I get operating on a normal cycle, that should be my situation. The forage wagon's just going to get things to storage, and the crampy's going to be what gets things to the barn. I shouldn't be at a point where I'm harvesting and immediately taking it there. I mean, I may choose to do it at some point, because like if I'm down at the end of 24 with straw and I know the barn's empty, it makes sense to top it off, because I am closer to the barn than I am to the storage silo, or the the hayloft is where the straw would be going. And similarly, if I'm picking up some hay, I could always top off the barn when I'm on that side of the field, but that's going to be 1 or 2 loads at best in most cases, because normally I would think I'd be keeping things pretty full so that they can just keep going. But once we're in normal operations, I'll probably take a peek again about what my consumption levels are for as far as how many days I get to go, and then obviously figure out what my fastest item is. And I think it was hay, because I believe hay consumes at the same level of silage but has about 50% of the storage. So it's 147 instead of 345, so obviously even less than 50%. Alright. No, this isn't it yet. I was going to say this is our 238 liters of wheat, but that's 3 over from here. So what I'll do is I'll pick this up, I'll pick this partial up, and then we'll go do that just so that we can put that in the books and see what we've got. So hopefully this is a bit entertaining, doing this and kind of hearing the thought process and what's going on here. And, farming suspense. Who knew farming could be suspenseful? Of just wondering, what things will be. So 238 would be 320, I think, if I'm doing my math correctly. So if we're at less than 16,320, we haven't grabbed as much straw. If we're higher than 16,320, we've grabbed more straw. Oh, we are way further than 320. Wow. So I would say we almost got... Did we really almost get 1,000 liters of wheat? Goodness. Well, which I guess would make sense. I mean, if you think about it, when the farmer's harvesting, the wheat is kind of the... I don't know if kernels is the proper term in wheat. But, the kernel is really what's collected as the grain, and then the plant and everything else would turn into straw. So, and obviously that's a much bigger set of material than just the tiny little kernels of wheat that you're collecting. So it would track that if I collected 238 liters of wheat, that I would get more straw, more waste, in essence. It's just the nice thing with these kind of processes is this now isn't waste. It's a byproduct of harvesting wheat, but then I get to further process and utilize the byproduct, and the processing happens in the cow's stomachs in this case, as they eat the TMR that's created by the feeding robot, and I make more money than I would just picking up straw, for example, or disabling the straw swath and not doing anything. Now, it becomes, just like always on the farm, I'm likely not going to collect straw every time that I harvest that field, because I don't think I'm going to be consuming at that level. So yes, I knew at the end, it's again pretty common that it's a little wider. You kind of move the harvester a tiny bit to kind of spread things a little, but it doesn't always work out the way you'd like. And there's obviously possibilities here that this still won't quite line up. So we'll see if we make it to the end of the row. But once again, we were able to fill the barn, and then we got some additional that went into the hayloft when we had oats. So I would like to think, given that 238, 1,000, so we could basically say for every 250 we get 1,000 liters of straw, so it's like a 4-to-1 ratio, so that if I have 39,000, let's say 40,000 just to make the math simple, I should get about 160,000 liters of straw, which means I've really not gotten any more straw than I would have with the oats, because it's 147 to fill the barn, and if I only get 160, I'm going to get 13,000 to put in the hayloft, and that will be it. So what that tells me is it doesn't really matter which crop I use, or that in fact oats may be a little more prolific, because I know, I'm pretty sure I had like I had like 27,000 in the hayloft at one point. I think the first harvest when the field was at full productivity, perfect lime, perfect nitrogen. So obviously that only happens one time, but whatever the field state is, all, you know, that being equal, selecting the crop, oats may still be my best choice. So as I said here, this is our second load. We're going to need to take our third over to fill the barn, and then we should have 3,000 left to take over, and then that likely means, what I'm estimating here, that we're going to have like 10,000 left on the field. So, and probably technically not even, because I didn't have 40,000. I had, I think, 39,325 or something like that. So, I was really hoping there was going to be a noticeable difference, and there may be, I suppose, in a little bit. Because, I mean, the other thing I need to be aware of here, though, so now that I think about this, I might actually be talking myself out of it, because this is kind of the lowest productivity state of this field. So what that means is, if at this point where we've stepped down again, if wheat is still producing in essence what we had with the straw off the oats field last harvest, and if I'm trying to think back exactly, I think I had 15,000 that I moved, some in the neighborhood of that. So if I end up with that or more, wheat's actually better, because if I had run oats for a third time, because the lime is worse, the yield should be down a little bit, and then that would mean I would have less than that in straw. So in hindsight, I did learn something. I mean, I knew I learned something either way, but you know what I mean. That this experiment may actually have been for the good, to prove that wheat is going to give me more straw than oats. And so in that case, we'll go ahead and do that. Now, I know in FS19, I think rye was by far the biggest straw producer, but we don't have that crop available to us here, because, you know, and that wasn't a base game crop in FS19 either. But you know, we obviously just need to work with the grains we have, and I think the only grains that drop are oat, barley, and wheat. I'm trying to remember. I don't think sorghum does, and I don't think we have any other grains, because canola is there. I think it's considered a grain as well. I know it does not. So I think we only have 3 crops that we can get straw from in the game. But at this point, you know, we're certainly expecting a full trailer again. So we need a full trailer and then another 10,000. Well, I guess another 12,000. And if I do that, I think I will have shown that wheat is better. And then we'll have our decision made, wheat or oats, as our first crop on 24. So I think once again we're going to have a piece here where it's a little too wide, so I'll probably just manually grab this to begin with, because I don't think I can get it all. Nope, I can see it sticking out to the right. So we'll do that, and then we will try to line up at this point, get our GPS line locked on to the center, and hopefully then we'll get everything we need. And of course, the typical... Let's see. What is happening? I know what's happening. It's the GPS fooling around again. Alright, so... Oh boy. Alright, well, that's because I'm not locked on now. Why is it doing that? That's like too far over. Alright, so now if I do this, it should be able to straighten out. That took a long time. So when we talk about work time and why work time is usually a far cry from how long it actually takes, it's that. I probably took just as long dancing around at the end of that row, you know, trying to collect all of it and so forth, and trying to get lined up, as it did to run the length of this field. So it's almost as if I forego another row down the field of work time. Did I just miss some there? Oh, I did. Why is there... Oh, you know why? That's because of the cutting through, I think. Although, no, I cut through there. So yeah, I don't know why. Maybe that's just old straw from the oats or something that I missed. And in that case, you know, it's one of those that it's going to be small amounts. I mean, as we saw, you know, if we have that ratio of, you know, when we did the 4, whoops, it's locking on, but I didn't move my line. So, getting ahead of myself because I'm talking and not thinking and paying attention. But there we go. But, you know, we harvested that little tiny group over there of 4 liters. So at the ratio, we would have gotten 16 liters of wheat. Or straw. So that's probably what we're dealing with, is every little pile there is 10, maybe 20. So, I mean, it looks like we've just got 3 little pieces there, so, you know, we're probably at best dealing with 50 liters of straw, and maybe because it's near where I've got to come back in, maybe I'll take the time to do it just to be thorough, since I'm getting rid of the field. It's not as if I'm ever going to be able to get it in the future through some other line or something. You know, and the reality ends up being, like, if I'm setting my harvester line on that side of the field the same way to begin with, I'm usually not going to move over enough to have that work. Alright, so this should now leave 47,000, because once again the barn will not have consumed anything at this point. So it's, you know, the straw's basically sitting there. It's not like the fermenting silo, where as soon as you put grass in, every minute or so you get silage, grass turned into silage, and so it's running. The feed barn doesn't work that way. It just does everything for the hour at the top of the hour. So obviously most of this will get dumped in there. I don't think the hay is quite full at this point. I could probably get more over later, but not something I need to do right away, but exactly what I expected, which is what should happen if I understand my farm. You know what? I'm going to go over to the field and I'm just going to get everything off there because I know I don't have more than a trailer load left. And so that way we'll know exactly what we have as the overage. And I don't know. It's going to be close, I'll tell you that. Because we were probably a third of the way up the field. So that doesn't leave a whole lot left to collect yet. So yeah, it's going to be interesting where we end up. Now we'll be skewed a little bit here from whatever we pick up from these little remnants that are laying around. But I think this gets me in the right place. I think the two are right there. There they are. And then there's kind of the bigger piece up there that is kind of the so there we go. Well, that was 27, but this I think is probably the same size or more. Oh, no, it was actually less. That was only 5. So all right, but there you go. So 32 liters left around. So kind of, as I say, it's not nothing, but you know, your mileage may vary. You can decide if the time it took to go pick that up is really worth it to get 32 liters. But again, we're trying to target 15,000 at this point. I don't think we're going to get anywhere near that. Well, I might surprise myself because it does go up pretty quickly, but if we are, it's probably going to be just. So there's the 13 we potentially needed, 14, 15. So very close, but I would say wheat's not going to be a bad result for me. So I'll go ahead and I'll do that as my first crop on 24 later on. But again, if you missed the previous episodes as I've been talking about this, in real life I'm going to be out of town, which means obviously time's going to go by on the real-time servers here. So even though today would be a plantable day for wheat, if I do that I have to harvest it next year, and I will not be able to do that. So the crop would wither and die. So all my efforts would be wasted. More importantly, I'd like take the field state on the lime down 1 level and so forth. So again, I guess I'll leave this up here like I normally do, or have been doing. We'll see. It may not become the normal once I am doing other things, but I'll leave this. No, I won't leave this. I'll run it over, because now the next thing I need to do is I need to run the slurry over to the BGA, and then we'll be done. So, but I want to get my tractor over to the I don't know. It'll be what it'll be, because now as I'm thinking through it, as I'm thinking through the situation, like I'll be back here next winter, in essence, is when I'll have returned and be able to be back on the farm. So I would still have to wait 3 or 4 months, 3 or 4 days until I could plant. But what I'll be able to do is move the straw, and I'll either move the straw, I'll probably move the straw honestly before I leave, because otherwise I think the barn will run out, and then I'll get some production later over the winter when I get back, which makes less sense. So I'm sure it will consume 15,000 liters or 16,000 liters of straw between now and the next 4 or 5 days before I'm gone, because it only needs to consume about 3,000 liters a day, which it's certainly going to do. because I think the lowest amount, I think straw is consumed at like 900 liters an hour or something, so, you know, it'll likely be before today is over. I might be 15,000 down, because I know the straw doesn't last 10 days, so. Alright, get this connected. Obviously get the hoses connected. Why is this not working? There we go. It's always fun to position yourself. Yeah, the truck just does not have enough light. But yeah, we'll be right up here at that point. And we'll get this slurry out before the barn cycles. So again, producing any slurry, although it will probably produce very little this first time because the cows won't be fully productive since they're just starting to get food again. So it's a little bit of unrealism in how this normally works now. Is I think it's going to provide a full amount of food, even though we technically only had straw over there for half an hour at best, and you know, but obviously that's just the dynamic of what it is. It's not like working in real time. The robot's not constantly moving and putting TMR in there, and even if it was, like, the little distributor robot that runs out and just dumps the TMR once, so they're just going to start eating. But I think it's like they're given food and they immediately produce something at that same instant, which obviously is not real. Obviously they have to eat the food and then produce stuff later. Alright, so we get the slurry dumped. And then I'm sure Mithras will come by and top off the silage later today. Yeah, we're just a few minutes off. So once I dump this here, if we want to get everything exactly in sync, if I hop over here and sleep till 5 a.m. for 9 minutes, we're exactly on time. It's 7:01. It's now 5:01 in this game, so perfect. You know, and then more importantly, what will have happened is now we'll have had some consumption. So you can see, like, instead of being at 350,000, they produced 2,500 liters of slurry. So that's kind of what I mean, is that we're getting some productivity immediately. Like, obviously the cows hadn't eaten anything in 8 months. I mean, obviously the biggest reality is exactly that. They haven't eaten anything in 8 months, but they're all still alive. Obviously that wouldn't happen. And I'm grateful that in FS22 we don't have that same dynamic, because I likely wouldn't be having a dairy operation if we did. Part of why I'm doing that is that I can, you know, the dynamic doesn't kill them off at this point. So at some point, you know, there may be something we do, there may be some mod that gets put in that does that, but right now it's a blessing that we don't, and I can run this operation and not worry about it, because what someone had to have done in the past, and so I worked on a farm as a contractor in FS19 that was exactly that. So when that individual did what I'm doing, to, you know, take a week off for vacation, like, he had to make sure he had contractors. There's the robot feeding and dropping off the TMR, so feeding the cows. But he had to have us in there, and sorry, trying to think of the words I'm trying to say, but he had to have us in there and do the feeding while he was gone, because otherwise in 2 or 3 days the cows would empty the barn, and then like 2 or 3 days later they'd start to die. So, you know, they wouldn't make it in time. So it was definitely something that you had to worry about and make sure you had someone reliable, or you could come back to a bunch of empty barns. But that's not how this works, so that's okay. So you can see, you know, we've only got 1,000 liters of food left because they've that's kind of the way it gets ahead, and that's it. So once again, we're going to run out of product. We're going to run out of straw before we're able to harvest again, just because it's going to be a year and a half. So we're definitely going to run out of it. You know, at some point I'll come back in here, put hay, move some hay over and fill that up, because obviously it's lower than straw, and again it consumes faster. But you know, we've consumed a little bit of slurry here, or not slurry, a little bit of silage. So we've gone from 345 down to where we're at. So there's going to be a little bit of room there for Mithras to put things in. And I'm sure he'll top that off and all will be good. You know, I've let him know I'll be gone, and that again means the barn's going to stop at some point. So he'll continue to, I'm sure, fill the BGA, and all will be good after that. So no idea how long this turned into. I wouldn't be surprised if it's really close to an hour. So if you've stuck around till the end, again, thank you very much. Always humbled that people sit and watch and listen to what I've got to say, but I'm doing the work, so I might as well share it with folks, and hopefully you enjoy it. As always, comment down below, certainly. I enjoy interacting with folks and just chatting about things. I've certainly gotten some great ideas from folks of what I could do, like the tank that's sitting there right behind me. I didn't even know that existed if it wasn't for a comment that someone had done on an earlier video. So, you know, it helps the farm get better if we're all working together, and creates that community. You can grow that community by getting more folks to subscribe. So if you haven't done that, please do so. And then, you know, more people will become aware of it. Also, like the video. That helps as well. So I will see you next time.